Hi, this is Tony Ruggiero. Thanks for listening to The Tour Coach. These are the players, coaches, experts, stories, and insights from my work on the PGA Tour at my retreats or my downtown teaching center in Mobile, Alabama. My goal is to shed light and share insights from the people who I've gotten to know and meet working on the PGA Tour and teach it through my career. And I hope this helps all of us play, coach, and teach better golf. If you like what you hear, please give us a good review and take a look at our new Dew Sweepers YouTube channel or the Dew Sweeper on Instagram, where I've taken some time to share videos of help from my teachings, travels, and journeys. All right, so joining me here on the Tour Coach, Akshay Bhatia. Akshay, what are you? You're 19 now, right?
Yep.
Getting old.
I know, almost 20. It's scary.
I mean, golly. I mean, I'm 50. I'm circling the drain compared to you. Heck, I mean, it's been fun just getting to know you more than anything, even away from golf. And I said this the other day, and I sincerely mean it. Like, I just think your outlook and your perspective on starting this journey to be a professional golfer and a PGA Tour player and a guy that wins majors and all that stuff at such an early age, though, is refreshing. There's been a lot of people try it, not a lot of people. You've had more success, I think, than almost anybody else that started this young, where you just went straight out. Talk a little bit about your perspective and what made you decide to, forego going to college. Let's talk a little bit about that and a little bit about the perspective you've gained and about learning and the process that it's been the first 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a lot of learning, which has been awesome. And I feel like, as many great athletes say, or, many good teachers say, is failure is the key to success. And that's what I've learned a lot, is I've failed a lot on this journey. Obviously, not going to college is a very different route. Only a handful of players do it. And, to start having success, only my second year as a professional golfer is awesome. And to compete against the best players in the world is where I feel like I'm going to grow the most in this game and the person, because golf is such a more gentleman's, mature game. And I've really matured a lot. And, I know you've talked about how I seem more mature than what my age says. And, Dr. Greg always says my outlook's a lot better than, a lot of kids in college. Or
your outlook's better than a lot of 40-year-olds I teach.
Yeah. It's been awesome. And, I'm excited to keep on going and just, stick to the process like everyone says. And, my time will come eventually. It's just being patient, as you know.
Well, everybody talks about that, staying committed to the process. It's hard as hell to do when it's you,
Yeah.
And things aren't going great all the time. But I want to go back to, a good friend of mine, you haven't met him. You'll introduce him sometime. He knows Greg, but Wayne Flint's a great teacher up in Birmingham, and he used to always tell me, when we talk about college players, you go to college to gain the skills to be able to do whatever you need to do to make a living, right? I mean, that's basically what you do. And so to me, it made sense for you, because really you already possessed the majority of the skills that it was going to take to play at that level. And the only way you were going to refine those, in my opinion, and get better was to play against the best players in the world.
Yeah.
Take me through. Is that kind of part of the reason not getting a ton into it, because this isn't about whether you should go to college or not.
Yeah.
Care, but
I just thought, for me, at a young age, my goal is to be the best player in the world, play on the PGA Tour. Obviously, I looked up to Tiger and kind of like some older players, Fred Couples, Nick Price, like a bunch of those guys who were just so, you could tell they loved the game, and it was all about feel for them. And so for me, I wanted to kind of handle my own schedule and not, have to go do workouts at this time and then go do class and then go practice with the team. Obviously, plenty of players have become successful. Majority of players are successful because of college. But for me, it's so much harder that it keeps me more interested, I think, throughout what works for me. And obviously having a lot of really good people around me. Obviously, Dr. Greg, who's worked with, major champions and people who've gone to the bottom of the bottom and brought them back up. Obviously, Colby, who works with all the best players. Yeah. Having those people around you, it's going to be hard unless you get into your own way not to become a really good golfer. And I've enjoyed the process, and I just got to keep figuring out, how to become better every day.
So you mentioned that, you have to fail. I think obviously you've had some not good times, but I think you've also had some really impressive starts and some really impressive play. And, you've played in the U.S. Open. You've done some impressive things. What have you learned, though? Like, what have you learned about you? I'm always curious, what have you learned about your game? Like, is there a part of your game where you, once you got out there and you played against the best players in the world, you're like, hell, I need to do better at this, or this is where I got to get better and sharper to compete against these guys. Is there a part of your game that you feel like you've said, okay, I need to focus on a little better?
Yeah, a lot of it's mentality for me. I feel like my game's always been good, and this is something I've never really shared with anyone other than, my coaches or my family or whoever's been around me, my caddy. But right before I turned pro, honestly, 5 months before, I guess I started realizing I was about to turn pro. So, the week before I qualified for a Korn Ferry event at, I think I was 17 years old or something, and I made the cut. And then the next week I'm defending a tournament, the Junior Invitational. In the first round I shoot 80, right after making the cut at the Korn Ferry event, which is I'm like, gosh. And then I never struggled with confidence in junior golf and amateur golf. And then I think as subconscious as it was, I don't think many people talk about just certain pressure you put on yourself because I never had that. So my hands would shake when I putted. It just, all of a sudden my hands would shake. And so right when I turned pro, that was a big thing that I needed to overcome. And doing that on the biggest stage in golf was the hardest thing because you got fans and people watching you on TV and people watching all over the world. And I would ball strike my way on the PGA Tour and my hands would shake and I could not deal with it. And I think this is great to talk about because I'm sure plenty of junior golfers who are trying to win for the first time, they deal with this, but they don't know how to handle it.
I think also, Akshay, Greg always says this to me. I think that when you're that person having it, you think you're the only person that's ever had it. You know what I mean? And there's there's a comfort knowing that doesn't make you, that there's nothing wrong with you and that it doesn't make you bad or you're not good, right? There's a comfort knowing that that's part of it, I think.
Yeah. So my first year as a pro, I went to every single tournament with my hands shaking, which was it was one of the worst feelings in the world. And then, COVID hit, I got time off, and that was when I started working with Dr. Greg, and I was trying to figure out, how do I overcome this? Because I was I hated it so bad, but that was why it was happening, is because I was fighting it so much, and he talked so much about just let it happen, and it happens to every single player, but it's just part of it. And so the whole year I struggled with that. Then I finally kind of overcome it, started working on different goals in putting, I guess more intent, more tournament situation feeling. And the first week I started doing these drills, I couldn't do it. And then as time overcame it, as time went on, it started to be more comfortable. And so I probably went way off topic here, but
no, this is awesome.
Mentality was a big thing for me. And I started to become more and more comfortable in those situations, obviously, as I played on the biggest stage in the U.S. Open and, winning qualifiers, everything.
Let's circle back. I thought, one, you didn't get off topic. I thought that was fascinating. One, I think it would help people. But two, like I said, I think you're incredibly worldly and wise for your age. And I've enjoyed just getting to know you. I enjoyed teaching and being around young people that want to be great and want to get good. I think it's the coolest thing to watch. And how'd you get into golf? And take us through you've been around a bunch of big name, great teachers, which I think is awesome. I love hearing those stories. Take us through where you started and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, my sister played golf. Yeah, growing up, my dad played a little bit, but my sister was really good, kind of growing up in California. And I watched her as, time went on, and my dad kind of made me wait a little longer than she did. She started really young, and I kind of started playing and practicing when I was 6. Didn't do much with it. Just kind of, I was terrible and whatever. I was just trying to figure it out. And then we moved to North Carolina, had a golf course 5 minutes from my house. And then all of a sudden I guess I started loving it, practicing every day. And my favorite thing was like short game, hitting flop shots, bunker shots. Like we didn't have a great chipping green, but I was so invested in trying to just hit a bunch of stupid shots as a kid that I think over time it really helped me. And that's probably something I need to do more often because I just enjoy doing that. Right now I don't chip and practice my short game as much as I need to, but that's kind of how I got into it. And then as far as coaching, I worked with Cameron McCormick. He was my first lesson I've ever had, and he was
that's a big time teacher to be your first.
Yeah, and this is when Jordan was in his prime, and he used too many big words for me. Even I probably still won't understand them.
Don't worry, I don't either.
10 or 11 years old, but that was cool to experience. And then, I started working with George Kankis a little bit.
How'd you find George?
Yeah, my cousin used to golf, and he said, hey, let's go see my coach. I was in California to do the Farmers qualifier when I was like 13 or 14. And he's like, yeah, let's just go see my coach and, he'll help you or whatever. And this was when George wasn't big time famous now or back then. So that was, George is one of my best friends, and he's so funny. He's a great person to be around, and he'll always have my back. And he obviously knows what he's doing with Wolf and then some of his other tour players. But now I work with Chase Duncan, who's, near to me, and then, obviously take some pointers from you as whenever I get to see you and whenever we can hang out. But yeah, so it's been, like I said, having a lot of great people around me and figuring stuff out from everyone is, it's amazing.
You've mentioned a lot. You mentioned it, when we were hanging out downtown in Mobile, like you mentioned figuring it out a lot, right? Which is a process. And I think I said this the other day to you, I think one of the cooler things I've been able to do, and it just happened by happenstance, not like I planned it, but like I'd have these young guys, and then I'd be lucky enough to teach or coach a great guy like a Lucas Glover who'd had a lot of success, or a Bill Haas, and you bring these young guys around the older guys, not that 40's old, but it's certainly older, and they've got experience. And I thought that was one of the cooler things that I was able to do, facilitate these young guys. You've had the opportunity to develop some relationships and friendships with some of the best players ever. Talk a little bit about some of the people you've had the chance to play with and the relationships and the things that you've learned, really, just because I think, like you said, like some of those older guys have so much to offer from insight into how to play the game and how to be a professional and stuff that you don't learn. And you wouldn't learn that at college anyways.
Yeah. I mean, that's why this journey that I've been on has been amazing. I spent a lot of time with Bill Mickelson, as everyone knows, one of the best players in the world. And, I mean, shucks, to learn from that guy at 17 years old until now, it's pretty, I mean, it's like,
impressive.
It almost seems like a dream. I was fortunate to spend some time with him on a plane, and every tournament I'm in and he's in, we play practice round for the most part.
What have you learned from him, play and practice rounds or in the plane? Like, is it playing stuff? Is it about how to be a professional? Is it about life?
It's funny. Like, he mentioned, I asked him a good amount of questions, more about short game or like why he hits this specific club or whatever. And he asked just as many questions as I do, which is cool. And a lot of his interviews, he talks about how he likes learning from the young guys and about speed and whatever. And obviously he's trying to chase the distance because he's old now. But yeah, so, there's small things here and there. We more so play games, and I may ask him a thing about, why he does this with his equipment. But, man, I've gotten to play with so many great players. I played with Jon Rahm this year, Bryson. I played with Bill Haas, who awesome to play with because the guy's won many tournaments, and he's a down-to-earth guy. And
I think Bill might be one of the nicest people you could ever play golf with. Yeah,
he doesn't really have a bad bone in his body.
Right. And he comes from, his dad was one of the great all-time players, right? And, the time I got to spend around Bill and Jay, it was kind of like when you talk about, like, when I was growing up, Jay was like Bill would be to you,
Yeah.
And so, like, the times to go, like, I played 18 holes with Bill and Jay, and I was like, And I was like, it was so cool hearing these stories and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, stories are the best part about old players.
Isn't it? It's some of the best stories and the things you hear that they do to each other or that they remember. I think they're cool.
Yeah, for sure. They're sick. But I don't know. You just ask questions that you never get to ask, you know, sitting in a classroom, you know?
Yeah.
There's plenty of things that I've learned, but like I said, I kind of keep it to myself and I'll watch more than ask.
And I said this before, and I told somebody this the other day, that one of the things that impressed me about you was one time, I don't know, you were struggling with a driver or something. So anyways, you came out. I was at Frederica at the time, and you came out, and I don't know, Colby, I think, was there. Anyways, we watched you hit drivers, and I used the rope that I like to use, that I took from my good friend Mark Wood, and laid it out there, the target line, and, you know, your feet were, you like to play a cut, your left-handed, your feet were 50 yards right at your target, right? And I put the rope down to help you see where the target line was, how you square, and you hit it better. Anyways, but like lots of people you do that for, and then you'll see them down the road, and they've abandoned it, right? I mean, it's human nature. And I remember seeing you, and it might have been Pebble, I don't know, it was somewhere, anyways, one of those sites that we were at, and I remember seeing you on the range, and you had the rope out, and I remember thinking, like, damn, like, the kid listened. Like, and that's one thing I've always been impressed with you is the fact that you really do listen. Not everybody your age, not everybody, period, really listens, right? And I was so impressed by that like you actually listened to that and you applied it, and you're like, oh, okay, I took something good away from the time that we spent together, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the week we spent there, you know, I went over to Mexico the week or two after, and I munned it into Mayakoba, so obviously it worked. But I think the coolest thing is, like, you've worked with a lot of great golfers, and, you know, you've kind of figured out your formula, and, you know, George has figured out his formula, and Chase has figured out his formula. So, like, getting all that information and bits and pieces of what works and what doesn't never hurts. And so, you know, bits and pieces from you while maintaining what I want to do and work on with Chase, it's, you know, it's perfect. And Chase and I do a lot of more on-course stuff and technique here and there, and with you doing more fundamentals with me has really helped because I don't ever pay attention too much to that. I just, you know, hit balls and go play, and that's a big thing in golf is the small things, as you know.
Well, and I not to sound old and preachy, right, but my young players know this, like, I really believe, and I've said this to you before, I think that one of the things that will be very important for you, because I think you're going to be one of the great players. I think you have the potential to do it, and I think your mindset's phenomenal, is I think the difference in a lot of the great players and then folks that are talented but don't do what they want is the attention to detail. And I think the best players in the world pay so much attention to detail, and they take care of the things that they can take care of and they can control. And I think that's like, but that's just like, that's not my personality type either, Akshay. Like, I'm terrible with that, right? Yeah. But like, I know that to be great or to do what you're trying to do, you have to do it. And I have to force myself. I think a little bit the way your personality type is, not reading anything new to it, but like, you have to kind of help force yourself to pay more attention to detail to get where you're trying to go.
Yeah, definitely. You know, like we talked about and what I've learned, you know, playing the last few years is always, it's just like crazy to me, but, you know, figuring out where, like, what side of the I need to hit on, you know, for targets or whatever. Dumb as that sounds, that's a huge part in preparation.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, small details are a huge influence for me, and I'm sure a lot of players will learn that as time goes on.
Yep.
But yeah, it's critical in this game. The more I think you do the small things really well, the better the outcomes will be for many tournaments, whether it's more consistency or, you know, knowing that I can hit this certain shot with this setup. You know, if you do that multiple times, you know, it kind of comes automatic.
Yeah, that's why you pay attention to the details so they're in place when you really need them, you know. Last couple questions. So, like, you talked about preparation. How much is preparation different as you've gone up from playing, like, you know, junior golf to you know, big amateur golf to playing, you know, to Korn Ferry to playing PGA Tour stuff? What's the difference in preparation? Have you learned a lot how to prepare better?
Yeah, I think in junior golf, I mean, not to be cocky, but I did in junior golf, I knew I was going to either be in contention or win the golf tournament, so there wasn't too much going into it. And I think, putting was a big thing in junior golf for me. Like, I love to just practice putting, and I still do. And I didn't really care about how my golf swing looked. And I think as time has gone on, like I said, figuring out what side of the range I want to hit on. I hit the same amount of golf balls every day, Monday to Sunday. And then I think once I do have, secured status, it'll be a little easier for me. I feel like I need to know every single part of the golf course in order to feel like super prepared. And sometimes that's really exhausting, playing 18 Sunday, 18 holes Tuesday. And sometimes I'll go out, after playing 18 and go hit some tee shots that I was uncomfortable with. So it was, it worked some weeks and some weeks it didn't. But that's the thing. You just got to stick to the process and keep learning and figuring out what works. But I think being really detailed is really fun for me. And my inspiration, my caddy and I love to do, figure out I don't know how to explain it. Our yardage books are really detailed, and we've got a program for around the green, how we write down things so we're on the same page. So that's really fun for me when figuring out, preparation weeks.
So last question is, and as we move towards wrapping it up here, what do you have on your schedule coming up? What are you preparing for now? What do the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months look like for you?
Yeah, final stage of Key School for Korn Ferry Tour in November, and then I'll probably do a few Monday qualifiers right after that and get the Korn Ferry Tour started in January. So we get to start at the Bahamas, which is kind of amazing. So, not a bad place to kick your year off if you got to kick a year off somewhere. Yeah, but I've taken the last 2 to 3 weeks off, which has been amazing, which much needed too, because I was super drained after the U.S. Open, and it's just nice to relax. And then I actually just got a puppy. So that's
no way. What'd you name the puppy?
We named her Tori after Torrey Pines, where I played my first major.
Awesome.
So it's fun to take care of her and have a pet for once. But yeah, just start practicing, try and gain some weight. Colby's been on my butt for that 2 days. So
you listen to him, okay? He's the best in the world at what he does, and he'll help you get where you want to go.
Yeah, for sure.
The interesting thing, though, is when's the last time you took 3 weeks off and didn't really play golf? It has to,
it's never happened.
Since you were 15?
Never done it. It's hard. I'm starting to want to play again and practice. I still got, some things that we're going to do before I start practicing. So
good. It sounds like you're becoming like a normal person with other things you're liking to do and interests and taking a little time away from it. That's good. Well, you got a bright future. It's been really cool. Like I said, aside from the golf, I've just enjoyed the hell out of getting to know you. And you're fun. You're a fun kid. And I don't mean kid in a bad way. You're just a bunch younger than me. But you've been a blast to be around. And like I said, wise beyond your years. And I know you got a bunch of great stuff going to happen. And we'll look forward to hanging out in the future.
Oh yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Tour Coach. I want to take a minute and thank Cordy Walker and Golf Science Lab, as well as my sponsors Srixon, Buick, Bushnell, and Vineyard Vines for helping make all of this possible and helping me share my insights with you. If you like what you've heard, why don't you check out more on the Dew Sweepers channel on YouTube, as well as the Dew Sweeper on Instagram, or go to dewsweepersgolf.com to find out more about my teaching, my travels, and where you can find out more about me.